It's Monday, November 15th. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lario channel. I'm getting a lot of requests for what happened to Glenn Devries in the crash of the Cessna 172SP last Thursday, Veterans Day, 11 November, back in New Jersey. Very little information at this time. Why? Because there's very little data known at this time. There's very little requirement for any data to be stored on board these general aviation aircraft, and it's going to make it very difficult for investigators to find out exactly what happened in this crash. Looking at the FlightAware, the preliminary FlightAware data, it looks like this aircraft simply fell out of the sky. Well, it's not too often that a very reliable aircraft like a Cessna 172SP simply falls out of the sky. Usually it falls into one of 12 or so pretty standard categories of general aviation crashes. This crash is going to take a while for investigators to figure out. Let's see what we got so far on this. And some of the best information comes from this article in the New Jersey Herald, a local newspaper. Thomas P. Fischer, age 54, a second-generation flight instructor, was killed along with Glenn M. Devries, age 49, of New York City. The Federal Aviation alerted public safety authorities around 3 p.m. that the single-engine Cessna went missing near Kama Lake. Emergency crews found the wreckage around 4 p.m. Police said the aircraft was on its way to Sussex Airport from Essex Airport in Caldwell. And if you look on the sectional chart, those two airports are only about 25 miles apart. It appears to me that initial reports that the weather was fine and the terrain between those two airports is rolling terrain up at about an elevation of about 1,600 feet or so. A spokesperson for the FAA said Friday a preliminary report on why the airplane may have crashed will be released roughly in a week. An initial report on the FAA website, of course, shows that the aircraft was destroyed and the crash occurred under unknown circumstances. Well, that's what the initial FAA reports nearly always say. David Gunderheim, Hampton's fire chief, and Steve Sugar, Stillwater's fire chief, said in a joint statement Friday that the aircraft was located about 1,800 feet into the woods after being spotted by the New Jersey State helicopter and a civilian aircraft. Crews used UTVs, chainsaws, and the jaws of life to cut a path into the woods. Machinery was brought in Friday to remove the aircraft, which was hauled away via truck around 6 p.m. So not a lot of time to investigate the accident site, in my opinion. It's believed the aircraft was brought to a local airport. Now there's a picture here of the airplane and the crash site, and it looks like the N number is November 90559er. And it looks like a pretty hard nose-down impact and then spin around of the aircraft in pretty heavily treed woods. Devries began his private pilot training with Fischer in February of 2016, so these guys have flown together for a while now. According to the Fischer Aviation website, he often posted on social media about his flights and purchased his own single-engine Diamond aircraft in 2020. Diamond is a single-engine fiberglass general aviation aircraft, another great aircraft in design. In an Instagram post in early October, Devries displayed an FAA-issued pilot proficiency badge while posing with his plane at the Essex County Airport. The badge is given to pilots who maintain proficiency in flight basics to help mitigate accidents due to pilot errors, lack of proficiency, and faulty knowledge. Fischer, his flight instructor, opened that flight school in March of 2012 and has logged thousands of hours and was featured in a popular mechanics magazine. And he did have a incident, not a complete engine failure it sounds like, but a forced landing, off-airport landing that put him down in the mall. That aircraft, it was not the same aircraft that was involved in this accident. The aircraft that went down Thursday is believed to have been reported inaccurately on the FAA website. Although a spokesperson did not respond to a request for clarification, the track of what is believed to have been the aircraft departed Essex at 10:30 a.m. and last seen at 10:47. And as we see here on FlightAware, I believe that is the correct track for this aircraft and N number. Now let's look at the limited data that's available here on FlightAware, and it shows just a short 17-minute or so flight of the aircraft going between the two destinations. It's in a steady climb all the way up to about 6,000 feet. Looks like he leveled off at about 6,000 feet. Fairly steady airspeed, about 120 miles per hour. That's ground speed, correction, ground speed, speed across the ground. And then at the very end of the data, the ground speed drops right off, and it does not appear to capture the loss of altitude on the last couple of moments of the data. Now, the ground speed is just that. That's speed across the ground. So if the aircraft is going down steeply, your ground speed across the ground may be very low, whereas your airspeed may be very high. It's just that you're simply pointed towards the ground. But again, we have no idea why this aircraft fell to the ground. In the picture, the only one picture that we have here, it looks like the entire aircraft made it to the ground. In other words, all four corners of the aircraft are present, and there's no sign of an in-flight breakup or structural failure, which would be very unlikely for this make and model of aircraft anyways. So what makes this a high-profile accident is Glenn Devry. Glenn Devry, of course, was the third or fourth passenger on the recent Blue Origin rocket flight up into space featuring William Shatner. And Glenn could afford this. This rocket ride was $250,000. Glenn could afford this because he was the creator, one of the three creators of a company called Medidata. Medidata is a company that creates software that allows medical professionals to help them run clinical tests on various drugs, and that software is widely used by a large number of large pharmaceutical companies, and Glenn was able to sell that software company, Medidata, to the French company Dassault Systems, the same Dassault aircraft company that brought us the great jets like the Mirages and the Falcon jets, the Rafale. Glenn sold that company for about a little over $5 billion. But this accident in Glenn's general aviation flying history doesn't necessarily fit the pattern, the classic pattern of somebody who has more money than talent, so to speak. Usually, when these guys get into this kind of money, they get into a very high performance aircraft right off the bat, similar to that French billionaire that was lost in the tragic crash overseas of the Pilatus PC-12 while on departure, an IMC departure, loss of control in IMC conditions. Glenn started out very modestly with learning to fly in this 172, sticking with the same flight instructor, and then buying a Diamond DA-20 aircraft, a modest single-engine aircraft. So none of that helps explain what happened here. So if we get any more information on this, we'll certainly let you know. If you have any more information on it, let the NTSB know, and you can discuss about it amongst the comment section. One of the only other few things that could possibly bring an aircraft down so suddenly has been discussed by Dan Greider over at the DTSB, and that is from a flight instructor's viewpoint. If you've got a student, now Glenn's already got his pilot's license, and we don't know if they were practicing any air work. According to the FlightAware data, it looks like they were just heading from one airport to the other. But if a student is practicing air work, and if a student is terrified of stalls and falls or spins, that student may lock up on you on the controls and put you into an unrecoverable or nearly unrecoverable situation. We have no idea if that applies in this situation, but it's just one of the few rare examples that can explain why a otherwise perfectly fine general aviation aircraft simply falls out of the sky. And of course, investigators will be looking at also to the condition of the engine and see if it was making power at the time of impact. Thanks so much for your support of this channel, especially over on Patreon, that make this content possible. That 5G report, I'll have it on your desk sometime this week. I've got a flight to Miami coming up here on Wednesday. See you here.